All right, it looks like we're up.
We are up indeed.
How are you, Peter?
I am doing well. As you can see, it is our Christmas special. This is my last minute attempt at a Santa hat. It's all I could find, and I just realized how dumb this hat is because if I wear it straight, it blocks my face, but if I wear it up like this to the point where it doesn't block my face, you can't get any of the Christmassy goodness. So I'm just going to put that off to the side and welcome everyone to the show. Who are you, Michael?
My name is Michael. I'm the editor of GoodieReader.com, and
Oh, wow.
I'm
I didn't know that.
specialized in all things ebooks and e-readers. So you might say that I'm the king of e-readers or kingpin of e-readers.
And as I just cleaned up some of the stock room yesterday, I seem to be the janitor of the e reader industry, and this is Peter.
You're the cleaner.
I am. Yeah, so what are we talking about today? We're talking about a couple things. We're talking about some new e-reader releases that came out this week, as well as some kind of spotlight e-readers that we're going to touch on that have kind of come out in 2020. And we're also going to talk about the past of e-readers in terms of what's happened in the 10 years kind of leading up to this moment, and what Michael will basically touch on the future of e-ink, and then I'll just weigh in because I think he wrote a pretty good story on that. And this week will be a little bit about the history of e-ink, and then next week is going to be our year end, where we're just going to look at the 10 years of Goody Reader, how we kind of transpired, where we became from just knowing each other as regular employees to where we are today. So let's kick it off. Mike, what has come out recently in the e-reader world?
A lot. I kind of thought initially that last week these would be all the e-readers that would come out this year, but apparently
Yeah.
there's all sorts of there's all
Yeah.
sorts of stuff so
It just
first
kept
of
on
all,
coming.
yeah, first of all, let's take a look at this stuff so people can know
Sure.
like what we're talking about. So Padmu has
Hmm.
discontinued their prior models,
And
and
why is that?
well, because they are so Padmu is a company that specializes in single and dual screen sheet music readers. So they're geared primarily towards musicians. So editing sheet music with an accompanied stylus, being able to automatically turn the pages of sheet music via Bluetooth foot pedals, and all sorts of accessories. Like if you're a musician and you have ever done like a digital type of thing, you know that with
Right.
various accessories you could automatically turn the pages without having to tap it while you're playing
Yeah.
piano, playing violin, whatever, right? Like when you're generally like musicians and stuff are two hands, like from flutists to like drummers to even people who play like the gong, even playing the
And the triangle.
triangle. Yeah,
Oh
you
yeah,
need
yeah,
to
yes,
you need to
yeah.
hold the triangle and
Yeah.
so you need to like know where you're at. So
Yeah.
Padmu sort of does, they've been in business for like 6 years, 7 years, and they've always used Onyx books
Yeah.
shells, but they've always done their own branding. They have like their own sort of skin launcher, which is sort of like they bill it as their own OS and stuff.
Yeah.
Primarily you sideload in sheet music, but also you could like buy it, so you could buy like sheet music and stuff from like
Yeah.
various providers that are on Google Play. So if you're part of an orchestra, you have sheet music that they normally distribute to everyone. It's normally like
Right.
in books or scanned sheets and stuff like that. So generally sheet music is like a two-page type of spread, which is why
Yeah.
Padmu is always sort of like combined two screens in order to like read, the first one, and then the second one you either hit the foot pedal or you just like hit
Yeah.
the thing here, and then they both turn the page. So
Now leave it on that pick for a second. I'm just going to elaborate on a little bit because you touched on some of the software. I'm going to touch on some of the hardware. Me and the team, when we reviewed it, we knew it wasn't going to be hinged like the Guido because it is just using two Max devices. So then when we got it open, what they do is the Padmu, as Mike said, is not a manufacturer. They just use Max devices. So when you order the dual screen, you literally get a box and it's just 2 maxes in the box. That's it. And then 2 cases. You don't need the cases because the cases just get in the way, really, because they're foldable. So you basically just open each individual max, and they're just maxes. But inside the box, the shipping box will be it'll be like a little Ziploc, and it'll have stickers in there that say Padmu. And they're not kidding anybody. They know that you're not using a Padmu hardware. So they say, if you want, you take out the little stickers and you put them all over everywhere that it says Onyx. Again, not to kind of hide the fact that it's an Onyx, just to show people that it is indeed a Padmu enabled device. So just to make you guys understand, this is not hinged like the $1,600 Guido, and it is indeed just Onyx devices.
Yeah, so this one's based on the Lumi. It's available for pre-orders, ship out like around mid to like end of January. Yeah, I mean, it's just like the Lumi, but they had the Padmu OS. So it's basically like the single screen retails for, you know, around $1,000. The dual screen is around like $1,900. So it's not, you know, this isn't geared at like us or like probably a lot of people watching. It's primarily geared towards like musicians.
That's exactly it. Yeah. It's the same with the Guido. You're not buying the Guido to read books. That's not what you're doing. Xiaomi released something, didn't they, Mike?
Yeah, so this is their second official e-reader. The first one was the MiBook, which was, I guess, like 6 inches. And this is called like the MiBook Reader Pro. And this one is 7.8-inch screen. So there's more screen real estate to read ebooks. It's geared primarily towards like a Chinese speaking audience. You can order these from us, and it's around like $289 or so, and so you could get this shipped like all over the world. And the good thing is that there's a lot of people that speak Chinese that live, you know, in every country on earth. So this is like an e-reader that's like not just like geo-locked to like a specific provider. You can get a lot of value out of this, like no matter where you live. It's not like locked into Baidu or like, you know, or locked into like Migu or you know, like a lot of the Chinese e-readers, they're sort of locked into like one ecosystem where you can't really get around it. So you can't sideload apps onto this. There will be probably like a language hack later, because like the first generation one had like sort of like an English firmware patch that you could hack into it that makes it into an English device. But because this is like so new, it basically just like came out like I think on Friday. So
very new.
Yeah, so Friday.
Some people were actually saying, I want USB-C. That was actually the first comment of the day so far on chat. And everything has USB-C. The one that Michael's showing right now has USB-C. The Guido has USB-C. The Padmu, the Max, the Nova, the Poke 2 Color, you know, like all note-taking devices across the board, the Supernote, I mean, everything has USB-C. There's a couple guys, obviously, like the Oasis that are built off of previous generation bodies, the Kobo devices, they haven't caught up yet, but virtually the majority have USB-C across the board.
Yeah, most of them do. Like, you know, Kobo doesn't release USB-C devices. Amazon doesn't do it. Barnes & Noble doesn't do it. But a lot of other companies are doing it now. So, yeah, this Mi Pro has USB-C. You know, it's 300 PPI, so you're getting, like, tremendous resolution. It has, like, a front-lit display with a combination of white and amber LED lights. So you get, like, sort of that a candlelight glow light effect. And it has Android 8.1 and it supports like a lot of, you know, formats, EPUB, PDF, text, Excel, PowerPoint, and like, you know, Windows documentation. So you could, you know, do this for, you could, you know, it's in English and stuff. So like you could sideload in English books or like, you know, Chinese books and you'll get like a good experience.
Yeah. This is one that came a little bit of surprise to us. The A5X. This is coming out, and unfortunately, they are proceeding with a little bit of a different marketing scheme. Before, when we're a very translucent company, we're very open and down to earth.
You mean transparent?
Transparent. Yeah, what's translucent again? That's like
it's like where like, you know, like a star would be translucent, or like a satin gown that's kind of see-through would be translucent.
That's right. We're a very transparent company. So yeah, when we teamed up with Supernote years back, they actually utilized us as a platform to get an international audience, and it was win-win with everybody. But actually, this one, not only us, but all of their partners, and this is real facts. All of their partners aren't actually allowed to sell this item yet, as per just what they said, and that is an actual fact, and it's an objective fact that we reached out to them and we said, hey, can we sell the product? And they're just like, no, and we're like, okay, well, we sell your entire lineup, including pens and replacement cartridges and stuff. Do you think we could sell the A5X? And they simply, the end result of that business meeting between us, the heads and the other heads, was no. So we're actually not even allowed to sell this item yet. Only they are. So that was a
Yeah,
little bit
so
of talk. Yeah.
this has been rumored to be coming out for a while now. We've mentioned it a
Yeah.
couple of times, like on the show. So this is like the Android version. It has like a full, some extra enhancements. It's like running like a quad core processor, whereas like
Yeah.
the original A5 just had a single core processor. This is running 2 gigs of RAM. I think like the first one had like only one. You
Right.
have like 32 gigs of storage, a larger battery. The first one had like less than half of this, and it has Android 8.1, but they have a sort of like their own fork of Android called like Shove, and
Chauvet, yeah. It doesn't
and
actually do anything. That basically means that it's running Android as a framework. It's not running Android the way you guys think that you could sideload in APKs and stuff. You can't do that. It just does not work. So that's the reality.
yeah, a lot of the times, like, with the Mi Book and stuff, and this, it's sort of like they kind of bill it as like their own sort of fork or customization, but all it is just like a special launcher that they set up. So
That's it.
they lock out certain features. So they're the only ones that can push out apps. So right now they have pushed out Kindle to this, as well
That's
as
right.
the
Yeah.
A6X, and they've said that they're going to be issuing Goodreads and
Hmm.
Overdrive Libby like in the coming weeks. So they're basically soliciting feedback on like the Supernote Reddit page on like what apps that they should include in future firmware updates, and then people sort of like if there's some sort of like consensus on apps that people want, Supernote will like include them. So they're the only ones
That's
that can push out
correct.
updates. So yeah, it's like $449 at launch. The price will go up after the pre-order period. It's basically like sort of the same thing as the Padmu, like sort of mid January, sort of late January. They don't really sort of have like a specific date. They just said shipping in January, so it'll probably be towards like the end of it, because they need to come back from a Christmas and New Year's,
Yeah.
and then sort of like get back
Right.
to
Right.
work and stuff like that. So yeah, the
We
specs look
definitely hope we can. Yeah, the specs look great. I know we've been waiting for a while. We've all been talking about it for a while. And we have regular meetings with Supernote. We got them in our pocket on WeChat and stuff like that. We're on good terms and everything. But their decision to just kind of leave us out of it was a little caught us by surprise. We really hope we can sell it because it's a viable product and it brings a lot of things that people want. They want a simplistic note-taking design that isn't a remarkable. So we hope we can really get that out soon.
right. So we mentioned on last week's show that Boyue has the Lightbook P6, and it just
And
came out.
looky, just came out. I have not even opened it yet. I'm not even kidding. We
Show us
just
the
wrapped the
box.
yeah, we just wrapped the oh, you're screen share right now. You got to get out of there.
Oh,
Yeah, I just realized I'm looking at my monitor that says looky. Here you go. I have not even opened it yet. I'm not even joking. We just wrapped the King Jim, which I'll get to in a second after we talk about this. This is the Book Boyue P6. I have not opened it. You know what? I'm gonna do a little tiny unboxing. I kid you not. I have not opened this yet. I've seen pictures, so I kind of know what to expect. It looks like you have a. We'll do an unboxing video as well. So this just for you guys. We have a documentation, and it looks like they said something about them changing the text because typically E is supposed to be small, not capitalized. So they said something about changing that, but we'll get into that later. And you have the USB cable and the little foam cutout. Again, we're going to do an actual unboxing on the day. Yeah, so we have the unit itself
So
right
the
here.
unboxing is going to be staged because you've just opened it up.
I know, but you know, most of them are not staged, but most of them are kind of already open because we get a lot of review samples that are like passed around to other news outlets, so they're usually open anyways. It is using a micro USB, but it has an SD card, and that's kind of rare. That's rare these days. And you know what? It doesn't look like it has too many cert stamps at the back. It looks like it is missing. It's hard to see with the camera. It is missing CE and FCC, which are respectively usable for Europe and North America. So we are kind of missing those two. I'll just do a quick boot up just to show you guys. But yeah, it is available now, and it is by Boyue. And Boyue has a long-standing partnership with us, and they have a long-standing track record. And we were worried they weren't going to release anything. Mike and I were talking about it not only every day when we have meetings and everything, but on every show so far on the live, we're like, they're not going to release anything in 2020. This is like the year they skipped. But they ended up squeezing this out, which I must add is kind of out of character. Everything they have is either Android octa-core quad-core powerhouse or note-taking, and then they have this, which, not to demean it, but is a not note-taking, not super high-spec powerhouse device. In fact, how much is it, Mike?
It's like $160 US, but you know,
Yeah.
it is a 300 ppi screen. It does have a frontlit display with 24 LED lights. It has a quad core processor, you know, 1 gig of RAM, 16 gigs of internal storage. The SD card is actually capable of an additional 128 gigs of storage.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's light. It's about 165 grams. It has Google Play and Android 8.1 out of the box, which is about the latest version that they actually have with all their e-readers. They've actually like issued updates for most of their e-readers to bring it up to 8.1. So this is like the sort of the new standard for them.
Hopefully this doesn't dissuade you guys of buying this, but I am currently stuck in a part starting up, but it looks like it skipped through the starting up progress bar to go into the hello menu and the Wi-Fi setup all at the same time. I'm not going to show you anymore because I'm going to figure this out, do a hard reset, and just do it.
Probably we need to charge it too.
It looks like it doesn't say anything about batteries and everything works, but it definitely needs a reboot because it looks a little bit scrambled right now. We'll get into that when we get into that, but yeah, it's available, and we hope for big things from Boyue, and yeah, you know, they were one of the first guys that pioneered the note taking with glow light, and they were the first ones to do it actually with the Jezitech based device from Jezitech, and they did it on the Mimas, which is really cool. I have something to screen share with you guys, and I will do it right here and screen share this. So this is just came out. King Jim. King Jim is a tech company in Japan. They make a lot of digital note-taking stuff, sticker printers and stuff. We noticed something very interesting. We contacted their heads and they sent us a sample. It is the Freno. It looks like Freno, but it is Freno. And I have an English translation script here to translate as many things as possible. Now, a lot of people saying this was based off of the MobiScribe, which it kind of is, and it's changed a little bit. So everything's very beautiful and it's all logoed up and everything, and they use their own logos etched into the pan in the back of the unit. And it is actually a little bit different than the MobiScribe because it is using USB-C, which the MobiScribe is using micro USB. So it is a little bit different in that regard. Comes with some nice cases, and
yeah, the cases are awesome. They're like made of leather, and they like stand up.
They are very nice. So basically, MobiScribe has been stuck for a long time with stock shortages. They've been up and down with, fulfilling the older contributions to their crowdfunding campaigns and stuff like that. They're using micro USB. It's a couple years old. This is kind of the approach that Quaderno took with the Sony. It's more refreshed, it's more available. Remember, Sony pulled out of the USA market, so kind of, Fujitsu and QuirkLogic are picking up the pieces. So if you don't want to deal with a company that has a little bit of volatility with their stock, meaning that you don't know if you'll actually get your MobiScribe or not, we do recommend the Freno. Reason being is, yes, it's more expensive, but the cases are really nice. It's actually using USB-C, and it's a tried and tested platform and operating system, and it's actually quite nice. And more importantly, it is available now. So that is the most kind of biggest takeaway. Something else that King Jim does, if you don't like the Freeno, we understand it's very expensive. We got that. They're doing this, which is the Kakumiru, which basically means write and see, or like look. It is full e-ink, actual e-ink. It says electronic paper right here. And it is using a resistive touch with the same stylus right here that Sharp was using on their e-reader earlier this year. This is the first e-ink memo pad in a consumer form, non-concept. This is not a prototype. This is available and we sell it ourselves. Comes in white or black, and it shows various things like alarms and stuff. And yeah, it's obviously just based off of icons and imagery, and you write what you want. So language barrier is not an option. Comes in a nice package, comes with a stylus. You see memo, to do, calendar. It's actually a pretty nice piece. And we looked at the promotional email from the company heads. We haven't got a review sample yet, but it is running full actual e-ink, and we will be getting our review unit soon. So we kind of have high hopes for something cool like that. More of the whole digital stationery direction.
Yeah, you know, to be honest, I think that it may not be a MobiScribe clone, because you look at MobiScribe here, it's
really
like
close, yeah.
it's not, it doesn't have like the same body. You know what I mean?
It's extremely similar. They must have either carbon copied it or is using the same shell, and they chose a little bit different materials and different colors, because it is dang close, and all the things are in the same place, the glow light button. But Mike is right though, because MobiScribe is made from Netronics, which is made in Taiwan. This one is actually made in China and distributed by a Japanese company, and the shell is a little bit different. And again, it's running different internals, to the point where the USB-C is obviously soldered differently onto the circuit board. So there are subtle differences, and most importantly, stock stability. King Jim is not a worldwide brand. I get that. It's right here, by the way. It is available now, and it ships anywhere in the world. So we've been breaking exclusives all 2020. The Quaderno, the Kaite line. We now have the E1 book by Progress Technologies, which is the dual screen manga reader. We have the Freeno stuff. We have a lot of exclusives, and this is all available now. So if you do want one, it is available.
Yeah, we actually talked about it like on the show a couple of weeks ago, about how the E1 book digital manga reader, you know, we weren't selling in our stores, really hard to get a hold of. So we've actually, since that show, we came to an agreement with Progress Technologies. So we are now selling the E1 book dual screen manga reader in the Goody Reader store, as well as a number of English SD cards that you can purchase that have like, you know, entire sagas of like, you know, it's literally thousands and thousands and thousands of pages, like Naruto and Bleach and
Naruto,
you know, Fist of the North Star.
Fist of the North Star, and then Bleach and Yu Yu Hakusho and a couple other mangas will actually be available in a couple weeks in January. So there'll be up to 6 or 7 English models, English manga series that are available now. And if you note, the Naruto manga series, I think, has like 100 volumes in it, and each one is like, you know, $5, $6. So that's pretty expensive. It adds up. These things are only a couple $100 for the entire series. And they are saying that the manga quality on the e-ink panel is much better than the reprinted printing machine physical mangas. And they have side-by-sides, like zoomed in side-by-sides on their website and stuff. So it's actually a pretty high quality device, and it's made out of real paper. I mean, that's cool. Really nice.
Yeah, I guess one of the sort of benefits, just expanding on that, what Progress Technologies has done is they've got the master manga file from the publisher. So it's better than a scanlation type of file, like if you're pirating it from like the internet. And it's like better than like, you know, if you have like a manga app, and a lot of the times they just like pirate manga and you can just like read anything like on a smartphone or a tablet. This is way better quality because it's like the master file, and that's what you're reading. So the resolution is crisper. It just looks a lot better, and it's on a dual screen device instead of a single screen device. So it's affordable. It's like a few $100. So you can go to the goodyreader.com/shop to check it out, and just in the search bar, just look for E1 book, and you could look at all the different SD cards that you can buy, as well as like the product
That's
listing
right.
itself. So if you're looking to actually buy one now, you actually can buy one no matter what country that you live in.
And note that these guys have hundreds of series available. Every manga that pretty much exists, they can do it. The downside is that certain properties like Naruto is owned by this guy in Japan, but it's owned by this guy, Viz Media or something, in North America. So basically, it's a licensing thing. It's not a capability thing. They can flip a switch and make everything English, French, German, Portuguese, anything they want. It's not that. It's that they have to contact France, they have to contact UK, they have to contact Australia and say, okay, we want to bring, Dragon Ball, we want to bring Sailor Moon, and they're like, nope, you don't have the license. So that's why they only have 7 English models available or multi-language, and hundreds of other localized domestic ones. So there's coming out with more all the time, and once you have the manga reader, you can actually just buy the other ones as they come out, so you don't have to worry about buying a new reader every time. So it's not like that.
So
yeah,
we actually discovered a new product. It's been out for a while, but this just like hit our radar. It's a new stylus called the Stadler Norris, and it's a classic and jumbo. So you have 2 different sort of styli to choose from. But one of the big things about this, it's made of real wood. So a lot of stylus that you buy will either be made of plastic, and it generally is the free stylus that you get. So if you buy a Boyue note taker, an Onyx note taker, note takers from Supernote, basically note takers across the board, generally they have like plastic styli that weigh 2 to 3 grams, and plastic stylus nibs, plastic stylus. This is actually made of wood, so
it is.
So the classic is basically the size of like a typical number 2 pencil. It's a hexagonal design, and they have another one called like the jumbo, which is more of like a triangular design.
It is a triangle, yeah.
And it's about half the size, but it has an eraser on top, so you can actually erase things on the Wacom screen.
It's actually a little bit different than the products we actually got. So the press package they sent us with those photos they've actually changed since we've opened and reviewed them, but they're very much similar to that. Now, there is a little bit of a downside of having such a realistic feel with the eraser. It's good and it works, but man, is it grippy. It's almost made out of actual rubber to the point where it's really, really grippy. So you got to make sure that you know what kind of surface you're writing it on. It works better on plastic screens, because on the glass screens, it kind of just grabs the page, grabs the device. So, take that with a grain of salt and kind of, understand what that's all about. And you can see the pictures, the videos Mike was showing. The nib is also very, very malleable, and it's very sticky. The whole situation with the nib and the eraser is very, very spongy. It's not a bad thing, but it's mostly like you're writing with a soft tip marker rather than a pencil, which was very strange because this thing looks like a pencil. So for them to not go with a graphite-y feel like the Sony, like the Remarkable, a little bit of a strange choice, but it is a very, very good design. And like Mike said, it has been out for a while, but it's never been more relevant with the selection of Wacom-enabled devices we have. So
yeah, I mean, it's distinctive. I mean, it's the only stylus made of wood,
That's
so
it.
I mean, and they're like a cheap too. They're like, between like 30 and 60 bucks for like both, either or. So I mean, if you just want a new type of, okay, so for me, like I grew up, like I'm 40, so like I grew up sort of like using pencils and like erasers when I was like a kid in school, like all throughout like grade school, middle school, high school. It was all just like typical pencils,
number 2s and stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, this felt like more natural to me because I'm just used to writing with pencils, whereas like a lot of sort of kids that are like half my age, it's like they sort of like had tablets in school and iPads in school. For me, it's sort of like in high school we had like the big phones, you know what I mean, that
Dude,
you actually
we had
those
with pencil sharpeners that were screwed into the wall, and you had to walk over there and put it in and go.
Yeah.
And if you're the last one to use it, that the canister's full, you gotta click it open and dump out the canister in the little bin underneath it, and then
All the
put it back.
shavings and stuff.
Yeah, and it never went back right. You're like, dang it, because there's these two things that need to go in, and then next guy goes up, and yeah, like I remember, like during quiet time and stuff, we had to grab our pencils. Here's a pencil. It's not HB, but yeah, and then we had to go over there, and if you didn't want to get up because it's kind of embarrassing or whatever, you got your little one in your pencil box, and you could go like this, and you just throw your shavings on the ground. It's like, oh man, it's old school. But yeah, these cool pens, it's like they were out for a while, whatever. The fact is that there's more electronic note-taking devices now than there ever has been, and these kind of arrived at the right time.
Yeah, so I mean, we're always just like looking for new styluses that like people have never heard of before. So it's like, we're always like trolling around like all sorts of different Chinese sites, sites from Europe, typical stationery companies that like suddenly pivot and make like EMR like styluses, like there's all sorts of companies that have suddenly pivoted to like make like EMR type stuff. Stadler's just like one of many.
And Lamy does it as well. Lamy makes pens, and then
totally.
They made the Lamy EMR pen, which is this amazingly beautiful pen that you can get even like personally engraved and stuff. It's kind of expensive, but man, does it work on everything. It works on like HP touchpad, works on your Samsung Galaxy 4 Note, works on like like the Lenovo devices, and it works on Onyx and Boyue and all those guys as well. Speaking of pens, I'm gonna do a little break here while everyone's kind of here and watching. iReader released the X Pen earlier on, and man, that came out of nowhere, and it's awesome. Aluminum core, perfectly weighted. It's a great looking pen. We have one as a Christmas gift to you guys right now. If you can tell us what device you are going to use this on and why you deserve this, and then later on in the show, we're going to pick one of you guys based on your comments and give this to you absolutely for free. It is factory sealed. This works on Supernote, works on Remarkable, works on Boyue, works on Onyx, works on MobiScribe, King Jim, everything. It's the X Pen. It's running Wacom, and it has aluminum core, very nicely weighted, nice white design. You will get this absolutely for free. Tell us what device you're going to use this on if you have one. Please have one. Don't just say, I want it, and you actually have like a Kindle Touch. Like, come on. Yes, there it is right there. It's a $41 value. It's usually actually a little bit more, and it is yours for free. We will send this to you absolutely for free. This is a totally unique pen, as Mike's showing you. Nothing, it doesn't copy anybody. It's high quality materials, canister for 2 items at the back there. It's really cool. Let us know why you want this. Yeah, it's a nice looking device.
All right, so I guess like one of the big things we sort of like wanted to talk about on the show was sort of like what is next for sort of e-readers and digital note-taking devices next year.
Yeah. I'm gonna crack open a coffee for this one. Oh yeah, I got my latte here. Oh, this is a good one. This one got no sugar in it. This is no sugar. It's actual milk. The only ingredients is coffee and milk. So yeah, this is gonna be a good one. Here we go. Start it off, man. I'm gonna sit back because you've been writing on this with your team a lot. The next one of your articles went big on that too, like what's next for e-readers. So I'm gonna sit back and listen.
Yeah. So I would probably say that 2020 will be the year that the most new e-readers and digital note devices came out. Above any other year in history, this is like the biggest year for just the sheer number of devices. I mean, you only have to look at our review section of our website to really kind of get so many new, like Pocketbook released like 4 or 5, Onyx released like 5, Boyue released 1. It's like Kobo released 1. It's just like almost every brand, big and small, have released like more than 1 device this year, sometimes many. So there was just like a crazy amount of like e-ink devices. So one of the things too is that not only are people buying more e-readers, but ebook sales are increasing by around, I would probably say publisher revenue if they, if 100% of the, generally on a quarter by quarter basis, ebook sales are now around 20% of publisher revenue. So more people are actually buying ebooks on their e-readers and buying more e-readers. And so that's not to say that people are just buying exclusively new devices. People are buying Kindle Oasis that came out a couple of years ago, the new Paperwhite, the Paperwhite 4 that came out a couple, 2018. So, people are buying the Kobo Forma that's a little bit older. It's like people just aren't buying new devices. People are buying like older devices too, for a myriad of like reasons. And that's mainly because a lot of people who read print just don't have an option to buy print. Early on in the pandemic, if you wanted to buy like a print book on Amazon, it would take like a couple months for them to ship out because they were prioritizing household goods, sanitary cleaner, paper towels, toilet paper, household goods, and anything else was being shipped out months later. So if you had like an e-reader, you could instantly buy books. So there's something a little bit more compelling against that. So to kind of understand where we're going next year, we got to understand what happened in 2020. So there were many innovations that occurred this year. The first was modern color e-paper, which is called Kaleido. Smartphones and e-readers were the first ones to employ this technology. Sales were so robust that e-ink completely sold out of the screens many times this year. They refurbed two factories in China and are expanding a factory in South Hadley, which is in Boston, in order to produce more of the color filter arrays. And so basically the big things about color this year is that it was only for 5-inch screens and 6-inch screens, which is why we saw the Pocketbook Color, Onyx Book, Poke 2 Color, and then various
stuff.
Various Hisense phones. So e-ink announced that there would be like a secondary version of Kaleido coming out in 2021. Well, it's sort of like out, it's available now. Specs aren't officially known, but other e-reader companies are currently actively developing products. It's just I can't tell you who they are because like I'm actually under an NDA with 2 of them right now. So suffice to say, there'll be 2 brands in the first or second quarter of 2021 that will actually have 2nd generation Kaleido colors on a non-6-inch device. So Kaleido right now, there was a lot of sort of drawbacks to it. Only 4,000 colors. The backgrounds weren't really gray. They were different gradients of like gray. So basically the 2nd generation, better contrast, more colors, better grayscale uniformity, support for front and lit and color temperature systems, and going all the way from 5-inch screens to 10.3-inch screens. So that was the big thing. The second major touchstone of the year were e-readers that actually ran Android. Android was basically a huge selling point. Not only that you could install, Google Play came with it, or you could download apps directly from Google, but a lot of them actually came with Android that allowed you to sideload your own apps. So there was basically Android 9 and 10 are like the norm now with new e-readers. Boyue is a bit of the outlier with Android 8.1, but it's fairly modern. I mean, that even 8.1 is going to be supported to like 2026 before
unless
really
you play like Asphalt 6, which you can't do on an e-reader anyways. You don't need Android 10, you know what I mean? 10's just good there. It's just there to make sure that you have the latest compatibility so you don't get parsing errors, you don't get fails, everything works.
Yeah, and it's like security updates too, because like the more secure your e-reader is, like, an e-reader doesn't have the security vulnerabilities as like a smartphone or like a tablet, where like a lot of apps are sort of disguised malware that's like on Google Play and things like that. The typical type of apps that people are installing on these Android e-readers are like PDF, PDF, manga readers, like different manga apps, different ebook, like Kindle and stuff, like sort of comic book apps. There's a lot of sort of more reading centric apps or dictionaries that people are installing because people are buying these e-readers to to read, you know. So any type of reading app that you're going to buy typically doesn't have malware. It's like, you know, Flappy Bird clones or Among Us clones, you know, popular games that are, you know, like PUBG and stuff like that, all the various clones. Those are the types that typically like have malware and stuff like that. So let's kind of like go by company, talk about what they did in 2020, and then sort of generally say what they're going to do in 2021. It's basically, I'm not going to read everything that I wrote. I'm just going to give you my thoughts.
Everything, Mike, every word. We need it dictated.
We'll be here for hours.
Don't do that. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the big three that people in North America have heard of. Amazon. So Amazon did not issue any new e-readers this year, but there are rumors that they're refreshing the Paperwhite and Kindle Basic sometime in the next 4 or 5 months. The Kindle, you know, basically Amazon continued to do business as usual. They're the #1 retailer for e-ink devices like in the world. So Kindle is like the most recognizable brand. People are buying the most Kindles. They sell the most ebooks. So yeah, they didn't release anything new this year, but generally they will probably refresh at least 2 e-readers next year. Paperwhite, I'm speculating, but for sure the Kindle Basic is going to go under a refresh.
There was that listing that came out. Remember, you posted a thing on it about it was like a new Kindle Basic with something on it, and it wasn't available, and you touched on it and then it kind of went away, but no, it never ended up coming out, right?
No, not yet, but the listing that they still have for the Kindle Basic lists like the year model, and they never do that unless something's going to be supplanted by something else.
Yeah, right.
So Kobo. So Kobo only released one new e-reader this year, which was the Kobo Nia, a very bargain-friendly entry-level device that was really nothing to write home about.
No,
it didn't score well.
I'll touch on this in 1 sec. Yeah, like honestly, when we got it, when Michael broke the FCC story, and it's like they did an FCC application, we thought, there it is. It's the mini. It's coming back for like the third wave, just like the virus, the third wave of the mini. And it wasn't. It was a 6-inch, plain cookie cutter black thing. And we're like, oh, okay. We opened it up. And we're like, oh, it's made in China. And that's not a negative thing. It's the fact that everything up until this point has been made in Taiwan. So why was it made in China? Why was it so out of character? Why was it so underachieving and cheap? And it was just a total letdown because it was very uncharacteristic of Kobo. Kobo was always like paved the way, innovated, and now they took like 3 steps back. And after we were done reviewing it and everything, we didn't want to use it. We never picked it up. It wasn't, we never say, hey, Mike, want to grab the Nia? No, leave that on the shelf. Grab something else. It was just crazy.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, the Nia didn't score well on any of like the normal tech sites reviews of it. In 2021, the Clara HD and the Forma are both due for a refresh. It is rumored to at least one of them will have audio functionality, so you'll be able to actually listen to Kobo audiobooks via Bluetooth headphones. Kindle and Audible have been doing this for years, and I think it's time for Kobo to join the party. I really kind of think that the Forma is sort of the flagship device. It tends to have new features first because people are spending more money. So I would say deductive reasoning would probably say that the Forma is most likely to do it. In case you guys are unaware, Kobo a couple of years ago launched an audiobook store. They sell audiobooks on an individual basis, but they also have like a subscription type service where like you could subscribe and download X number of audiobooks like a month. So far, the only way that you've been able to do that is like on your smartphone, like your Android device or your iPhone or something like that. But you haven't been able to like listen to them on an e-reader, and Kobo is pretty well an e-reader centric company. Like they sell a lot of e-readers in a lot of different countries in the world. So I would probably say that it's most likely that the next major innovation from Kobo is either a color e-ink display or audio or a combination of like both. Barnes & Noble, they didn't release any new Nooks this year, but they did release the Nook Low Light Plus 7.8 at the tail end of 2019.
Yes.
they sold a fair number of these because it was the first non 6-inch e-ink device they ever sold. In 2020,
Have you seen the bezels though? Dude, it's huge. It had some of the biggest bezels you would imagine. It's the same shell as like a 10.3-inch device. And that's only because the bezels are thicker than like I don't even know, man. It looks like an inflatable tube, one of those floaty things. The screen is so like drawn in, these thick, chunky bezels around the side. Again, another testament to how they have no vision when it comes to designing things.
Yeah, I mean they outsource everything, so they don't
Yeah.
even internally design things anymore. They just like outsource it all to like Nektronics in Taiwan. So what happened to them in 2020? Well, they sold they're selling the Nook Glow Light and the Nook Glow Light Plus 7.8. They got hacked like 3 months ago, and they're still not fully
Oh,
recovered from that.
yeah.
So people weren't able to even read their ebooks for like multiple months, so that
Yeah.
hurt them. Their priority in 2021 is basically like their stores, and I've mentioned this before in previous shows, how they're basically like moving into smaller stores, waiting for leases to expire. They're giving like store managers more control over the titles that they stock, whereas like before Barnes & Noble got purchased this year, so they were sold this year, so that, I guess, that was the big story. They went from like a publicly traded company to a privately traded company. So they aren't like totally like on a quarterly basis, like obsessed with share, like, quarterly results.
Yeah.
So they can adapt more of a long-term view. And the way that their bookstores ran is they had like corporate book buyers in New York that would like look at books coming out, and they would say, okay, we're going to stock this title, this title, this title, this title, James Patterson, Stephen King, and stuff like that. Even though certain stores maybe don't sell suspense or mysteries or horror that well, but they were mandated from New York on what type of titles that they would stock. Now that's all changing. They fired basically almost all of their regional, like all the corporate book buyers in New York, and they're allowing stores to order what they want. So stores will be able to cater more to the local demographic, local interests, and things like that. So it's doubtful that they'll release a new e-reader next year because the priority is the store.
Yeah, and honestly, Barnes and Noble, if you guys are, we know we have a very large European viewership. They're not available anywhere. They're, for a brief period of time, they're available in the UK and a couple of the select markets, and for a very, very brief time, Canadians and Australians and whatnot were able to purchase certain services like a book or like an audio or a video of some sort on certain devices, but they're primarily 99.99% America. So if you don't live there, it's pretty irrelevant to you.
Okay, so Pocketbook.
Yes.
This was a huge year for Pocketbook.
And what a confusing lineup they have made themselves into.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
man.
they released the seminal Pocketbook Color, which was probably my favorite color e-reader of the year. The Pocketbook Basic 4, the Pocketbook Touch HD 3 Limited Edition, the Pocketbook Touch Lux 5. So they released a lot of
Didn't they come out with
devices.
the Basic 4 this year as well, or did you just say that?
Yeah, I
You didn't
mentioned
say-
that.
Oh, you did.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I'm jumbling. I'm like, wait, they had one more. Yeah. Oh man, their lineup has so many devices, and why that is because they're still kind of selling things that were made a little bit prior to. So like, they have 4 things in their lineup. So then they make 4 new ones, and it's like they haven't stopped selling these. And so I just saw Michael run away. I was like, what's happening? But it's fine. So anyways, they kind of don't EOL their devices, which means end of life. So Onyx, for example, which we'll get into in a second, discontinues a lot of their older devices immediately after they make a new one. Pocketbook doesn't really do that. They kind of keep things around. They refresh it with limited edition touches. So they basically sell a lot of the things they've already made alongside all the new things that are coming out, which is why you have 9 or 10 devices that are very, very similar. They're still selling the Aqua 2. That came out a while back. And since then, a lot of other e-readers they make are waterproof. So, you know what I mean? It's like very, very difficult to understand their lineup, but they make good stuff and they've been around for like 13 years.
Yeah, I think partly it's because they they order or produce so many that they tend to sell them until they're gone, so they continue to sell devices from a couple of years ago because they still have them in stock. And it's would you rather take the write down loss on an extra maybe 100 or 200 units that you have, or would you rather just continue to sell them, discount them and stuff like that? So Pocketbook tends to not sell e-readers directly. They tend to rely on a distribution system. So companies like Good e-reader, we stock all the current stuff as well as the previous generation stuff that we get behind. I mean, that's the one thing about our stores, that we don't sell stuff that we can't stand behind, or stuff that that we can endorse.
Who were that guys that we gave one of the lowest scores to because they just weren't good and we don't sell them? Artitech. They released this thing 2018, 2017 or something, and it was so Stone Age that it just nothing would work on it. Everything was slow, we're not bashing them. It was a very bad e-reader. And you know what? We're called Good e-reader. So to have a bad e-reader on our site doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So we only sell things that we feel people will like and receive well, because we don't want to sell something that's junky, like the Whiskey EE, right? Decacore processor. The thing was broken and it was fragmented and nothing worked. You couldn't even open up a calculator without it crashing. Couldn't get behind it. Couldn't sell it. Things like that.
So what's Pocketbook doing in 2021? Well, they're going to release the second generation Pocketbook Color and a few other color models. So I can't really talk about exactly what they're doing, but I think that they're going all in color next year. So you can expect at least two or three new devices.
Everyone's gonna go in on color, man.
Yeah. So Onyx Books. So
that was a big year.
I mean, they're not a household brand the way that maybe Pocketbook and Amazon and Barnes & Noble and Kobo are in North America. But on a worldwide basis, Onyx Book is quickly becoming a force to be reckoned with. So they've been around for about 10 years. They primarily started just releasing devices in China, partnering with companies like JD, and things like that. And then maybe about three and a half years ago, they started writing English firmware and, partnering with resellers to sell their devices all over the world. And since then, they've been pretty consistent about refreshing their entire lineup every year with incremental updates. So this year they released.
Do you have a count on how many?
The Note Air.
Yeah, I'm gonna write this down.
3,
1, 2.
The Poke 2 Color.
Yeah.
The Note 3.
Yeah.
The Nova 3. Mm-hmm. And the Max Lumi.
Oh my God, 6.
Yeah. So all of these different products hit all different types of price points. So the Poke 3 is the cheapest. It's what, $169?
189, 169 on sale. Yeah, it's cheap.
Yeah.
Man.
So it's it's 6 inches. The Nova 3, which I didn't even mention.
That one. You didn't mention that. That's right. 7 devices.
So this was 7.8. The Note 3 is 10.3. The Lumi is 13.3. So all of their different products sort of hit all the different screen sizes that are currently available on e-ink. So the Poke and the Poke 2 Color are pretty well outliers, where they're non-digital note-taking devices. They're designed just for reading. But one of the things that Onyx Book does very well is that they always have modern versions of Android. So the latest gen has Android 10, but they also have Google Play as well. Yeah. So they're only one of 2 companies currently that actually bundle Google Play right on their e-readers. Yeah. So all of their products this year sold super well. And, the Lumi right now sold so well that it's sold out completely again until January 15th. Some of the other devices are taking weeks to ship out because it's just production issues. So what's new for them? Obviously they're probably going to refresh their entire lineup again. next year, minus sans the Note Air. They probably will. That
Did you
probably was
correct
just a
yourself in
one-off.
another language? You
Well,
did.
it's
Minus, wait, I'll translate it into another language I don't fluently speak. Sans.
that's right. So
Very
they're
funny.
probably gonna go all in color too.
Yeah.
They'll probably release like a Poke 3 color, a Note 3 color, a Nova
That's huge.
color.
What you just said right there. They will be the first guys, if they do, to have a note-taking device in color. And we have seen this firsthand. Me and two other guys went to Tokyo last year, at the end of last year, November, December, and we drew on the 10.3-inch color Wacom-enabled e-ink note-taking device. And it works. It's real. I drew on it as well. Someone had the camera over my shoulder. I was drawing on it. It's real and it's available. No one has yet adopted it in its consumer form, but it's ready to go. Green toggle, blue toggle, red. It's perfect. So, and that was a year ago. So, yeah, I mean, anything's possible. And yeah, Onyx has been time and time again proven to pave the way and be very proactive. Look at the amount of releases this year. They're going to be the ones to do it, if anybody, I believe.
Yeah, you know, I've been told that they're going all in with color. So whether they're going to have both traditional black and white models available and color models available at the same time, like the Nova 4 and then the Nova 4 color, that, you know, in that case they'll have 12 different models if they refresh their entire product line. And I just think that's overkill. I think that they'll probably, so I think next year they probably won't do like a Nova 4, Note 4, whatever the Max 5 is going to be, whether it's
I was gonna
or something else.
Before,
They'll probably like just add color to these e-readers for next year. That's what I think that they're going to do.
I agree, and I have 2 points to point out on Onyx right now, and it's very relevant. It's very interesting because out of the 6 devices that release color this year, everyone was saying the layer that sits on top of e-ink it's basically like a piece of paper. I can find a piece of paper on here. The color array system, which is color, is a passive layer that sits on top of the e-ink screen. That's how you get color. Because it's passive, it means it's not active. There's no cable in it or anything like that. Onyx, despite this, we don't know what they're doing. They were able to turn it off. If something's passive, you're never able to remove it unless you physically rip it off. But on X mode, on the Poke 2 color, with Google Play enabled, octa-core, Android 9, you can turn off the color. So I don't know if that was something where they actually sent a charge to the digitizer, the color array, and they've activated it, or they've done something to bypass the color array. But so far, they were the only guys to be able to do that. And that's kind of cool. And a lot of like I don't mean to talk down to you guys, but a lot of the average people didn't pick up on this. But the techie people, we were like, how are they able to do it when they're using the same screen, but no one else can do it? We just kind of picked up on that. Secondly, Onyx, man, you guys need a new pen. You have tried the new Max 3 white pen, which is just basically a Chinese shell that even companies like iReader use. It's the one with the rounded eraser at the back. They got rid of that so fast. Then they released the Air pen. It's kind of cool, no eraser, kind of clunky and big, but they're still using that pen from 2014, and you're buying $900 devices. You gotta get some pens in their lineup. We have to see some digital stationery come out of Onyx. They're killing it with their note line. Mike says if they color everything and then boost up to the next gen, they're gonna have like 12 plus devices. They still have that same pen. You gotta swap the pen. That's something.
Yeah, I agree that they need to, like, you know, sort of pull a Supernote and do like their own line of digital stationery products.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's not the hardest thing to do. Like, you know, as we've discovered, you know, we're sort of in stealth mode with a few different products that we're developing right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, digital stationery, having more options for the customers to purchase from your company is probably one of the best plays that you can do. Onyx is probably a hardware-based company. They don't really make any money with software. They don't sell any software. They have companion apps for Android and stuff, but they don't make any money off of it. It's like Onyx makes money with hardware sales, and that's it. Whereas like Kindle, they're like a gateway to ebook sales.
Yeah.
Kobo, Barnes and Noble, gateways to those ecosystems. Pocketbook pretty well just like has a royalty-free store. They don't make money with software. They're a hardware-based company. So a lot of companies just make money off the initial e-reader sale, and the profit margins really aren't that big. We're about, if you transition to digital stationery, you buy something, 1,000 things for like 60 cents each, and you could resell for like $19 to like $49 if they're more premium.
60. Yeah, the Lamy is like $60 to $110 depending on the market. The Supernote pens are $50. The X Pen is about $50, and these fly off the shelves because, like someone just said in the chat, hashtag old school pen, and it's true. Since 2014, next year will be 7 years. They are using that same plastic pen on the Lumi, on the Max 3, on the Boyue Alita. All these guys are the same pen. And yeah, I mean, you don't have to go overkill with your, metal design like Supernote and everything, but something as simple as like an aluminum core on the X Pen, like legit, it's a great pen. This came out of nowhere. iReader's like, we know you're reviewing the Smart 2. How about this pen? We're like, oh, okay, sure, a pen. Awesome pen. Actually voted one of the best pens of the year by us. And it's fantastic. And digital stationery, even if you just have one SKU on your site, one little item, it could really change things and draw people in. And it's something as simple as that.
Just to give options, whether you want the cheap pen for free and then you pay an extra $30 for a premium pen.
That's exactly it.
Accessories are huge. I mean, they're in the industry, a Kindle, Amazon doesn't make very much on. A Kindle leather case for like $79, they make a killing on. A screen protector for the Kindle, but they make a killing on. So a lot of accessories have super high margins, which is generally why they Amazon has like bundles for the Kindle where you could buy like a case, a screen protector, and like a Kindle umbrella or something like that and the e-reader itself for a nominal cost. So it'd actually be cheaper to buy the bundle than it would to buy all the accessories independently.
Someone on chat wants you to talk about Remarkable next, Mike. That's the next brand he wants.
Sure. So, so for a company that's only released 2 products, everyone has seen the social media advertising campaign of Remarkable. So ever since the first Remarkable, you can't really not use Facebook and not see a Remarkable ad. They spend
everywhere.
It feels like they've spent like over $1 million on Facebook advertising. Like they're nonstop, like sponsored stuff. They tend not to advertise like on Amazon or Twitter and things, but Facebook, man, they're all over that. So, for a company that's based like in I think they're Norwegian.
It's Norway. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So for a company that's based in like Norway, they've really cultivated a pretty loyal following in North America.
Loyal's an understatement. Have you seen and this is real, the delays in their releases is astronomical. People have been waiting upwards of 8 months, depending on the batch, to get their unit. Dude, 8 months. That's a long time. You can have a baby in that time. Your life could change. You can go to cram school and get like certifications for your future career in 8 months. It's a long time to wait for a device.
So in 2020, they released the Remarkable 2. They developed new cases, new stock pen, a new premium pen, and also replacement nibs. They did basically a flywheel campaign where people pre-order in batches, they manufacture them, and then they send them out to the users, generally about 3 to 4 months after you place your order. They basically did this all year long, and the earliest batches, batch 1, 2, 3, faced the greatest delays, but most people are sort of getting them on time now. The company has money, but not unlimited money. So the only way that they can manufacture small batches is using pre-order money. So what's next for them in 2021? Well, I mean, they're generally like on like a 3 to 4 year cycle of new devices. So 2021 stock stabilization will likely occur. So you'll be able to all their pre-orders will be sent out, and it'll probably be possible sometime in the next like quarter or two that if you want a Remarkable 2, you just order it and it'll be like sent out right away. So that's
I agree, but I think their stock situation is going to get a handle. I agree with that. I don't think they're going to release anything new in 2021.
No, of course not.
Nothing.
It's stock stabilization.
I mean, that's what people want to hear, though, and you're just hearing it from us. So that it's been years since their last one, and in fact, the last one had better writing capabilities, and it felt better. I'm serious. It's real. They're going to get a handle on their stock situation, stop this 8-month delay thing, get caught up. They're not going to release anything 2021. If you're thinking color or even a glow light Remarkable, it's not going to come out.
Yeah, so the Remarkable 1 came out September 17th, 2018.
Yeah.
And then this was like 2020. So 18, 19, 20. So yeah, so like a 2-year cycle. So yeah, they probably won't do anything in 2021. But 2022, certainly towards the end of the year, they depending on how color goes, they might do something with color, but not next year. Next year is all about stock stabilization and being able to like get new orders shipped out like either the day of or within about a week of like your order.
You know what? Honestly, you touched on the advertisement campaign. To be completely honest, and we're unbiased, we sell and use everything. We've used things that you've never even heard of, that we've never even shown you. We've used things. Honestly, if it wasn't for that advertisement campaign, if you just strip aside this device against other devices with the Remarkable 2, it's not very up to date. There's no glow light. There's very little you can do with it outside of note taking. And people say it's distraction free. Everything's distraction free. Just turn off the Wi-Fi. And honestly, if it wasn't for them just hammering it into your face every time you open your cell phone, every time you open your browser, every time you open Facebook, Instagram, Remarkable, Remarkable. If it wasn't for those ads, I don't believe the Remarkable would be as popular as it is. It has no glow light. It's very much the same, if not more underachieving than everything else. And you can find better deals elsewhere. So I would say that even if in 2021, they finally get on board with what they're going to do, it's like Supernote. They have great digital stationery, but the device is living in the past. It's several steps back from whatever's happening now. So I just don't believe even in 2022 they're going to release anything good.
Well, generally, like this year, it's a lot of incremental update products.
But it's
releasing a device that's like a paradigm shift in design and functionality.
We don't open it and go, "Whoa, does it change my life?"
Yeah, no, everything looks the same. Like probably the Note Air was a little bit distinctive. The Remarkable 2 design is distinctive. I mean, I think the Note Air copied what Remarkable 2 did.
100% copied it. 1000% copied.
So I mean, exactly Remarkable 2 as a two-tone design. I mean, their hardware looks distinctive compared to anything else that's available by anyone else. And so any digital note-taking device, the Remarkable 2 is distinctive, both with like their color choice of having like a white screen with a two-tone type of like design.
Someone wanted me to make it rain. Sorry. He's a paid member, Mike.
So one of the other things that they do really well is the software side of things. So they're constantly like updating their blog. If they release like a new firmware update, they're doing a comprehensive post with like animated GIFs on their blog showing like things that you can do. I mean, nobody else does that. Like Supernote, when they release like firmware updates, they have like a list of like 4 things, but you have like no idea about what they do. You just have like, this is the new features. You know, same with Amazon. They tend to have just like a 1-word change log, security, you know, performance upgrades, new home screen design. It's like they don't really go into detail. Whereas Supernote, they do comprehensive write-ups. That's like 1,000 words, 2,000 or 3,000 words. You know, with the Supernote, when the Remarkable 2 came out, even before it came out and it was available, they did like the Remarkable 2 development story. It was like this like 4-part series where like they talked about what went into constructing this device, you know, showing off various prototypes. So I mean, they're like a cool company because like they have 2 products. They have the Remarkable 1 and they have the Remarkable 2. They don't have like a crazy amount of products that they offer. So they could focus on the Remarkable 2, and that's all we're focusing on. So they could, you know, that's why they have like really high quality cases. They have like 3 different cases that you could choose from, like folio, leather, and then like a book type of case.
That's cool. Yeah, that one's really cool.
I mean, they have really polished looking accessories for it, and you know, it's a lot of people just buy the device, but accessories are pretty underrated. I think that their new premium pen looks super solid. It scored really well.
It was a dual effort between Mike's news team and me and the product team that actually brought it to the idea that Remarkable should be selling their accessories separately. And I believe, Mike, you had some you wrote an article about that, and I think clockwork, a couple days later, they released all of their products to be sold separately.
Yeah, so Remarkable 2 accessories, the only way up until like about a couple weeks ago was to be able to order a Remarkable and then choose whether you want the premium pen, the stock pen, what case that you want, things like that. And so since the Remarkable 2 has been available and people have had it in their hands now for like 5 months, you're running out of nibs. So, and there was no way to buy replacement nibs. If you bought a cheap case, like the gray folio case, it's like, this isn't working for me. I want to buy the black case. You can't.
And you couldn't even upgrade your pen. You couldn't buy the Marker Plus unless you bought a whole new device. So there was no way like get a feel of the new thing they released.
Yeah, so you know, after writing a story about that and basically saying that it was a disservice to like their existing customers to not be able to offer these options, they suddenly included that like a few days after my story broke, and people started retweeting it on Twitter. You know, even a Remarkable commented on like on my Twitter thing saying that they're going to work on this, and then they worked on it. So you can now buy Remarkable 2 accessories from their site. We sell them as well as our own store because Remarkable doesn't ship to a lot of countries.
They only ship like 10 countries. So there's a lot of people that watch us from Chile and Brazil and New Zealand and stuff where they just do not ship. We know it's a little bit more expensive through us because we ourselves actually have to buy them from Remarkable, because Remarkable actually doesn't work with anybody. It's Remarkable. There's no other sphere around them. It's just them. So we do offer them to you guys. So if you live in like Estonia, Romania or something, and you want one, we can get it to you. We don't make almost anything on them because it's just more of a service to our customers. We bring them in retail and then we ship them out to you. So we bring them in, we pay the tax, and when we ship it to you, we don't charge you tax. So again, we're not walking away as bandits when you see those prices on our site. We actually don't make a whole lot on the accessories when it comes to Remarkable, because it's just they don't work with anyone.
All right, so Supernote, they burst on the scene a couple of years ago. They quickly made a name for themselves with their 7.8 and 10.3 Linux models. They were woefully underperforming compared to other e-notes on the market. The only thing that really distinguished themselves from the competition were their focuses on cases and digital stationery. They sell a lot of folio leather cases, interesting designs. They have the hard metal stylus with 12 different colors. In 2020, they released the Supernote A5X, which was basically a small spec bump compared to the previous model. You can't sideload apps. You basically have to get them with via firmware updates. And they just announced the Supernote A5X. So both the A6 and A5X were running Android, whereas like the previous gens were running Linux. And
but they might as well be the same thing. Let's just call it as it is.
Yeah, I mean, there's still, compared to a lot of digital note-taking devices, like compared to Remarkable, compared to Onyx, compared to Boyue, they're probably like a distant third or fourth. So they, small spec bumps on their own don't really account for much, and they release like the firmware update maybe once every 3 or 4 months, so they don't really like give you a ton of new features and stuff like that, but they are still a known brand in the e-note space. Let's take a look at what other companies are doing this year, just quickly giving you a rundown. So
Okay, I was just gonna hit up because we had a chat about this, and it'll just be small. A Learning, his name, said, "What is the closest thing to Sony, seeing that it was discontinued this year?" We want to make sure we clarify on that, because Sony USA contacted Mike and the news publication team. Our Mike, right there, is that right? Are you over there? Yeah. And Mike told me and said, they're pulling out of the US. And I'm like, really? Because they were big there. Sony Digital Paper. They're actually not discontinued at all. They still sell out of Japan. and through us, we sell to the world. We still sell the Sony DPT, the RP1, the CP1, the cases, the nibs, the screen protectors, the replacement styluses. We sell them. We sold them this morning. We sell them everywhere. And actually, the brand itself, the casing is very much alive because two companies, a Japanese company, Fujitsu, and a Canadian company, QuirkLogic, both picked up the Sony hardware. So technically, Sony's more available now in more capacity than it ever has been. So I just want to make that clear because we sent a newsletter. It only reached like I think 14,000 people. Sony's not discontinued. They're manufacturing for other companies, but they're still making recent models and manufacturing lines of the DPT RP1. So they're not discontinued. Just want to put that out.
Yeah, they're basically focusing more on business to business as opposed to like business to B2C, which is business to consumer. So yeah, they're focusing more like on like business to business. 2021, don't expect any new Sonys to be developed.
Sorry, wrong segment, but no, they're not gonna make a color 13.3, although that would be crazy if they came out with that out of the blue. Not gonna happen. Sorry, yeah. Go for Bokeen.
So there's just like a few here. Bokeen, they're pretty well like on a 3-year development cycle. In 2020, they released the Diva HD. These devices had a French bookstore right on the device and sold well. Bokeen is still relatively a fringe brand. Yeah. They pretty well do like a lot of marketing in Paris where they're based. And you know, French speaking countries. They do ship all over the world though, so there's plenty of people who are enrolled in like say French immersion programs. Like I grew up with like a lot of kids who our high school had like a French immersion program where all the classes were taught in French. And so, now a lot of those people speak English as their primary language, but they're the secondary language of Canada is French. So yeah, 2021, Bokeen isn't really going to do anything new. Tolino, primarily aimed at German-speaking audiences, and it's easy to purchase there, Switzerland, Belgium, and other areas that are kind of close by. At the beginning of the year, they released the Epos 2, Page 2, and Vision 5. One of the cool things about these devices that you could choose between one of 5 different bookstores to do business with that sell digital books, like Thalia and things like that. Germany has a lot of different like public library systems, so you could deal with all of them. These devices are all based on Kobo hardware, so the Kobo Clara, the Kobo Libra, and the Kobo Forma. That's what all those models are based on. So since they just refreshed their lineup like in 2020, it's unknown whether they're going to do it in 2021. It entirely it entirely depends on what Kobo is doing, as we kind of mentioned previously, that the Forma and the Clara are probably due for upgrades. It just depends on like what Kobo is going to do, whether they're going to do color or just audiobook functionality.
And actually, touching on Tolino there, as per your list, Mike, you sent us over a list of your top 10 e-readers that you've gathered over the year, and we did a video on it, and the Epos was on there. But if you think about it, the Forma was voted the best e-reader of the year for 2020, and the Tolino shares the same hardware as the Forma. So if it wasn't for the fact that it was catered to just a European market, technically the Tolino still best e-reader of the year because it's the same hardware. But I understand it's different. It's based on a little different of an operating system. The bookstores are different. So those are the reasons you see that gap. The Forma and the Tolino Epos 2 are the exact same thing, but they were separated by I think 5 or 6 slots because the Tolino is just so focused on a very niche, specific market with very specific bookstores that the Forma was the king because it's such an international presence. The same hardware though, so it's just kind of interesting.
Yeah, the last sort of thing, it's more of like a market. So it's China, and the Chinese market right now is red hot for e-readers and digital note-taking devices. Most are almost exclusively in China. Like all of the color e-readers minus Pocketbook were from Chinese companies. Let's just talk about them. So most are, not you just can't buy these e-readers and use them in North America or Europe or wherever you are. Most of them need a Chinese phone number and a Chinese address for them to work properly.
Yeah.
Of course, you can sideload in your own EPUB books and read them in English, but it really kind of defeats the purpose for buying like a device that's easy to use. You could also sort of use it outside China if you have relatives there that actually do
They
have an
feed you over
address.
their cell phone.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
I'm waiting for the one-time passcode. What is it? Okay, it's 2211. Yes, I'm in. And then once you're in, you can't use anything. In fact, I'll just touch on this. I'll send it back to you. iReader and iFlyTech locked down to the point where, like Mike said, you need a cell phone number with a 2-time passcode that goes to the cell phone number and an address. And once you're in, you can't even browse the web. You can't go www. There's no way to browse the web. You are in this Baidu ecosystem where you can only go here and there and there and there. And the iFlyTech uses Migu and WeChat, so that you can't even visit a web page. It's so locked down. Back to you.
So these are the devices that were popular that came out in 2020. So there was the iReader Smart 2,
that
the
was a good one.
iReader C6, which was a color e-reader.
Yep.
The Xiaomi Mi Reader Pro, iFlyTech C1, which was a color e-reader only in China. The iFlyTech AI Note, the iFlyTech Smart Note, the Dasung not an e-reader, and then like the Mu Ink has various new e-readers that got released this year. And that's not even talking about the Hisense like smartphones that came out in China, but they had English firmware, so they were totally usable in other countries. And they supported like a lot of international brands like in Canada, the US, UK, all over the world. Like they supported like a lot of 4G bands and stuff like that. So
and very interesting on Hisense, Mike. What did they do this year that everyone was kind of wowed? They made the Q5, not e-ink, but man, did it look interesting. It's almost like you're looking at those old school calculator displays where the imagery is right up against your face. And it was RLCD, which is reflective LCD. The device came and the device went in what felt like weeks. It was gone. It was really cool. Didn't have a backlight. It relied completely on ambient light. If you shined it outside, it was like copper. If you shined it at your ceiling light and it was a cool light, it turned to silver. It was really, really cool. It was in tablet form, had a SIM card slot on it. Discontinued, it felt like overnight. And we had a question. Someone said, when is the Hisense Q5 second gen coming?
No idea. The company hasn't announced anything. It's not available for pre-order or anything like that.
Yeah.
They just might have just given up on the brand. But I did hear that they, through my Chinese contacts, that they were working on a second gen device. It's just a matter of like when it's actually going to come out.
Yeah, and all these Chinese brands that we mentioned, they're either in the e-reader scope or available through us. There are so many more that are just for China only. They're on Alibaba, they're on eBay, they're on like the third page of Google, the fourth page of Google. In fact, to the point where, like I said earlier, we have so many samples we don't even show you. Companies send us random boxes. It's like Shenzhen, Guangzhou, Inc. And I was like, okay, that's just 2 cities and districts in China. And we open it up and it was this cell phone. And it was like, I think it was based off of a QQ, like the Penguin ICQ or something, whatever. It was a QQ-based ecosystem smartphone that was pure Chinese, like traditional Chinese characters. And we were like, there's no pamphlet or like promotional information. There's even a name of the guy who sent it to us to review. And it was just like a blank box with a Chinese smartphone in it, as if we were able to even review it and say to the company, thanks, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, for sending this to us. So yeah, I mean, there's tons of, it seems that China has a really big handle on e-ink, and they're really pushing a lot of e-ink devices out there to the point where it's just these crazy cookie cutter things and reverse engineered of other things. It's just insane.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just mentioned the known brands that have been around for a while, and the types of devices that people are actually purchasing. I'm not going to mention all the other companies that are sort of like they've only released maybe one product. They're not they're not known like a Xiaomi or something like that, like a known brand. They're from some fringe company that no one's ever heard of before.
Yeah, yeah,
So
totally.
let's answer some questions.
Yeah, let's answer some questiones. I'm going to push it back to everyone again. We did have 5 entries into this already. And what we're going to do is we're going to gather those names and we're going to put them in a random name generator. Then we will go over to our Facebook page and announce the winner. So far, there's 5 people in it. If you're just joining us now, this is the X Pen. Michael mentioned it earlier that it came out from iReader. People are making a lot of digital stationery these days. This is a very nice pen. It's factory sealed. It's aluminum core. It's yours for free if you tell us what device you're going to use this on, why you deserve it. We'll give this away to you absolutely for free. So some questions. You could have guessed, Mike. Any update on TCL next paper? That's the question.
No, not yet, my
You're like,
friend.
ha. Yeah, that was from Manish Kumar Singh. And thank you for joining us, Manish. But we cover this every week. And Michael's the guy to talk about that because he's talking to the people at TCL, but no developments as of yet.
Yeah, TCL is not going to release a product with next paper. They're licensing out. So it's like e-ink. They don't actually make stuff. They make demos to basically showcase the technology, but e-ink is never going to release an e-reader on their own and sell it. They just license the technology to other companies.
Yeah.
That's what TCL is doing with next paper.
RM asks, is book history and web activity all tracked by Baidu and WeChat on those devices? Is there any open source e-reader OS that can be put on those? Unless you know super high-end coding and you go back to like the I think like the load chip on the device, like the BIOS. No, these devices like the iReader, the iFlyTech that are locked into these ecosystems, they don't allow you out of the sphere. If you have a Baidu enabled device, there's like, you know, the top 10 Chinese movies of 2020. It'll just be here. And then, you know, what you can buy for your Mercedes car here. You can't go outside of that. And likely, yeah, all of that is being tracked, which is why they have you in these ecosystems to gather data and stuff like that. I mean, everyone does that, Google and Facebook and stuff. But yeah, that's probably why. And no, you can't really just over your computer drag and drop like an Android OS that will just open everything up on these devices, because more often than not, other than Hisense, they don't allow you to load in launchers or any APK files at all. So unfortunately, no, if you can't just get out of that circle. So
Yeah, it comes down to it that there's source codes like not publicly available. So you can't just like go to GitHub and download like their source code and make changes
no.
and then, you know, compile your own version of like Linux or Android. Most of them are running Android these days, but
Yeah.
with skin launchers, so you would never know you're running Android. But yeah, even like Onyx like gets a lot of flack from their community for not publicly disclosing like their operating systems. If people are being tracked, no one knows. I just read a story about how there was like a Chinese guy that worked for Zoom, and he was being paid by the Chinese government to like write to Zoom groups that were like talking about like the Tiananmen Square anniversary, and he was like writing from various official Zoom addresses and closing down like their groups at the behest of like the Chinese government, because like they don't like people talking about that sort of stuff, like,
Yeah.
you know. So he was basically being paid by Zoom and actually be paid by the Chinese government to like close down Zoom groups, to infiltrate them, to basically share personal email informations from like Zoom to the Chinese government. So, I mean, even if like you're not using a Chinese device or a Chinese service, there's still like a lot of shady stuff that's like happening out there. So just, you know, even like, I know I wrote a story about Amazon and the various things that they do to track you. Same with Kobo. You know, they take a lot of your data information on like how long you're using a device, how, you know, what's the frequency of your page turns. Are you using page turn buttons? Or are you like tapping? Or are you swiping? Are you gesturing? How long does it take you to complete a book? Are you doing awards? Are you using Goodreads? How long are you using Goodreads? You know, it's like a lot of stuff, but it's basically metadata for that company to enhance services or to like work on bugs. Like if it takes 5 seconds to like launch this feature, and a lot of people are using it, they'll try to shave down the amount of time that it takes to like do that. So it's not like all this analytics are sent to like third party or fourth party companies. They're pretty, Kobo stuff's usually just sent to Kobo. Amazon, it's not being shared with like third parties.
Yeah. Somebody said, will the black and white side of color e-ink improve on the second gen of Kaleido? We sure hope so, because it's very, very gray right now. If you don't use the color portion, which you can't really do that other than Onyx. So if you have like a black and white ebook, it's still trying to show color, like around the characters, it's showing like different shades of gray and stuff, and different shades of like blues and like like reds for warmth. It looks really kind of looks bad. It looks really bad. If you compare a gray e-reader with like this, which is a fairly white e-reader, e-ink, the color doesn't look that great. We hope that they make in the second gen the array less intrusive, but still as effective, so that it doesn't get in the way when you're just reading a regular book. Or they activate the layer so you can turn it off, either OS switch or a physical switch. We don't know.
Yeah, better grayscale uniformity and font clarity are two of like the things that e-ink is improving upon with Kaleido 2.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, everyone's having a great time in the chat. Everyone's like, very nice and polite community. That's not your voice. I just assume that's what you sound like. Someone says, Kong Tran said 5-inch Android 11 e-ink ? Well, there's not really any small e-readers now. 6 inches the benchmark for the base level. If you want small e-ink devices, you can grab a smartphone. It's about 5.4, and they aren't up to Android 11 yet. So that might be a stretch, but it's a possibility.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect like a 5-inch or below 6 inches for an e-reader. It's just like there's not enough of a market. I mean, e-readers on themselves are like a fringe market. You know what I mean? It's like even just like popular brands like the Kindle. I mean, Kindle sales pale in comparison to like smartphone sales. Like, like the OnePlus brand, they probably sell way more smartphones than e-readers in a year-to-year basis, like from all e-reader sales. So it's like it's really hard to compete. So e-readers by their very nature cater to readers, and let's face it, like reading goes down year on year. Like you have to look at like the Pew Research like articles that they released on year on screen time. More people are just when they're chilling now, they have more options. They could watch Netflix. They could watch The Mandalorian on Disney Plus, which the season finale on that, crazy. It was like,
don't say anything.
It's it was tremendous.
People watch. Yeah, just leave it at that, because people genuinely want to watch.
But I mean, like HBO Max, like there's no shortage of streaming services that you could pay for, or Amazon Prime. Like, if you're a Prime member, you can watch Prime Video and like watch all sorts of stuff. I mean, there's no shortage of stuff vying for your attention now. And reading used to be the primary escape method before really media came along. Reading newspapers, reading magazines, reading books. And it just feels year on year reading always goes down. There's less people reading the year than a year prior. And there's certain demographics that continue to read, specifically women tend to read more than men, and generally the earliest adopters of e-readers and the most loyal adopters are not millennials. They're not 20-year-olds. They're like above 50. So it's like e-readers were pretty well pioneered by older people that just loved reading and liked the idea of, maybe you're older, you don't have enough like going to a bookstore, maybe your eyes aren't great, you're not driving anymore, you're taking the bus, you're getting rides, I mean, you just don't have time, like it used to be like you would retire at like 50, freedom 55, retiring at like 55. People are working
freedom
to
75.
People are working to like this 60 or 70 now, just because lifespans have increased, so people people read more later in life. Now that's the trend, and like people like 40 and below tend to spend their leisure time playing games, streaming to Twitch, using their laptop, playing on their smartphone. I mean, watching stuff on like their box. I don't know.
No, it's true. Yeah, people are living longer. I mean, yeah, I mean, look at Biden, right? He's like 78. I mean, that applies to a lot of you guys. He's going to be 82 when he finishes his term.
The oldest president like ever.
Dude, 82 when you're done. I mean, I saw the I don't know what you call it. I'm Canadian, Mike's Canadian, I'm in Japan. I don't know what it's called. The congressional something where he
electoral college.
There you go. No, when he speaks to everybody. Yeah, whatever. When he come out and speak, I mean, I'm not being mean, but just like anatomically, he cleared his throat like must have been like 27 times, and he's an older gentleman. But I was just like, wow, man, that's an old president. That's a pretty old guy. And I'm not saying you need to have like 29-year-old president, but
you can't. I think you have to be like, I think in the US is it 40 or 50. You at least have to be of a certain age or older in order to run for it. And that's just like for like teenagers don't run on a like a LOL and they actually get elected. It's like they physically can't.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. What do you call it? Like influencers running for president? No, someone just said Biden won't last a year. That's funny. So yeah, again, I'm sorry about the pronunciation.
That's a lot of people are saying that. Like, it's like being that old, you have health problems. Like even Trump, he's like what, like 70-ish, like low 70s. Like I think whatever. Like
74.
Yeah. So I mean, he's an older guy and he has a lot of health issues too, mainly because of obesity and stuff like that. But I mean, the older that you get, the more just health things that happen to you. You get wrinkles, you get like just bodily things that start to go, eyes, like hearing, just like weird bumps that you suddenly like are getting. It's like it's the natural progression of like getting older.
Aside from your physical body, it's the decision making that's most important. But
I mean, mental cognition goes down. Like it's sort of like people are babies and then they're like toddlers and stuff, and that almost like the older that you get, you almost like start regressing back to like the mental like aspect of like, not a child but pretty close, because you lose the mental faculties that you have between when your brain's fully developed, when you're like 22 23 to about like you're 40 45. That's pretty well your prime of like mental cognitivity. And that's like generally like why like the greatest inventors, like the greatest artists, they all did stuff like early in life to the boat that they were about like 40 to 45, because
like the founders of Good e-Reader.
Yeah, I mean like Picasso, like Machiavelli. A lot of those guys, like they wrote their greatest work when they were like young men, because like they had the drive, they had like, they had the time, they had like the mental faculties to really devote everything to this, and like the final thing speaks for like themselves. So yeah, I mean, greatest artists, greatest inventors always like started like, late teenagers to,
it. Django, again, I don't know if one of them is silent or not. Django Ferreira Hamung has just sent us a donation. Thank you very much. Very much appreciated. We always welcome donations, of course, because it goes back into things we send back to you out of the contest and everything. So thank you very much.
Did you leave a message or did you just donated?
Look at all of us. We're on Tube instead of reading. That is correct. We are all on the internet. I think that was about the time you were talking about reading.
Yes. If you're going to be consuming media and not reading, you might as well like listen to the Good e-Reader live, because we actually talk about reading nonstop, but we're actually not reading as we're talking to this, unless you have us on closed captions where like you could actually read what we say and turn the volume down rather than hear what we say with talking. You can think of it as, one of the things that I guess we've never really talked about on the show, and I've written about a couple times, is the audio form, like, is audiobooks and listening to audiobooks or listening to podcasts for that matter, it your nonfiction type stuff, for the most part. There's like a lot of kind of cool podcasts that like look at sort of historical type things that have happened, and they do like a 5-part deep dive series into it. And then you have like, say, Joe Rogan that interviews guests, and there's different types of podcasts. But with audiobooks, they're pretty well the audio equivalent of a written book, and is listening to the audio form, whether it's like a show like this, a podcast, which pretty well this is, or an audiobook. Is that the same as reading, or is it in the same ballpark, or is it totally different? That's like a cool kind of, I think, discussion for like another time. But their audiobook sales have been continuously growing for like the last 12 years. It's like the fastest growing segment in like digital publishing. When prior years ebook sales were crashing, audiobooks were significantly gaining traction, to a point where like publishers are not making more money selling audiobooks than ebooks, but the gap has been closing. So that's like a cool discussion, I think, for like another time.
We're definitely gonna do that on another day, because there's there's a big insurgence of audiobooks, and a lot of device manufacturers are getting into that. And it's definitely opposes an entire kind of show just related to that. And a lot of people are talking about audiobooks. They said, I just listened to Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules audiobooks, et cetera, et cetera. But we're almost out of time, and we have another question from Bagus Willar. And I'm not sure he knows who we are, because, and not in a bad way, we'd like to tell you. He says, why are ebook readers only sold in a few countries? Can anyone make an efficient distribution channel so everyone can afford them in the world? Well, that's precisely what Good e-Reader is. We are the distribution channel. We work with every single person, every single company in the world that will do business. We sell every item, and we ship everywhere in the world, from Andorra to Papua New Guinea to Madagascar. And we operate in 3 different countries, and we have distribution warehouses in 2 others. So we are the distribution channel, and we're dang efficient, because we are 24 hours and we don't have downtime. Because when one of us goes to sleep, as you can see on Mike's camera, it is dark, and on this camera it is light, because we're 24 hours here. And we are the distribution channel. So if you want an e-reader, you buy from us, because we'll ship to you.
Yeah, I mean, there's various aspects of like what we do. Like, we started as just like a news website reporting on e-readers, and we had to buy everything retail that we reviewed. And as we started,
we'll go over next week.
Yeah, that's gonna. And as we gain traction, more people start sending us like free items. To basically now we're like, we don't pay for anything. We get everything like for free. And we've noticed through when we wanted to buy things, especially a lot of Chinese e-readers we don't get for free. We have to still like buy them, like the Xiaomi MiBook Pro. So we don't have a relationship with Xiaomi because they just got into making e-readers. So it's hard for us. Same with Dasung, it's hard for us to get like the not an e-reader from them, because like they don't generally deal with media, and there's not a lot of media covering e-readers and stuff like that. So some stuff we still have to buy. But what we noticed is when we started buying stuff, how hard it was for us to buy things. There wasn't a lot of retailers. There was like scalpers on like eBay charging like double or triple the price, and it's like, we're not going to pay that. And then it's like, well, why don't we just start like selling the stuff that like we speak highly of and we really get behind. So we sell like, we have relationships with like all the brands that send us free stuff, and then we're basically, hey, let us sell these things for you. We love your devices, let's sell them on your store. So they give us dealer prices, so like we're not charging more than other dealers are charging. We're charging like the same amount or sometimes less. So we just like leveraged our relationships that we've got with companies over the years while still reporting on the e-reader news, like over 12, 14 years as we've been reporting on e-reader news. We have direct lines of communications with all these companies. So starting a store was super easy for us to do because we already knew everybody. We knew the CEOs of all these companies. We knew all the senior business managers and stuff like that. And we were on a first name basis with them. We've met them over the years at various trade shows, whether it's at SID Display Week or the Consumer Electronics Show, like in Vegas, the former Book Expo America, like
or Computex
in Taiwan. It's like, we used to go to like all these events and just like meet everybody, and then we would send other people to like go to the London Book Fair, the Frankfurt Book Fair. So we've gone and attended almost every single event, as also like one-off events where like I met the guy that developed Liquid Vista, the guy that developed Miracell, and they gave like keynote talks. It was just like this random event in San Francisco that I got invited to, and like everyone attending there was like some sort of like PhD genius, just like, yeah, I made Liquid Vista, let me tell you about it. And he talked about it for like an hour, and it was like this cool stuff. And that this was like in like 2011, 2012, something around there. So yeah, I mean, that's how we were able to like not pivot but also sell stuff, just because it was really easy for us to like do so. And we realized how hard it was to live in Canada. You never know how hard it is to buy stuff until you live in a country where like not as a lot of stuff is like sold in your country. So your options are like so limited. Like in Canada, it's Kindle or Kobo. Kobo, you can buy things in a bookstore. Amazon, you have to buy things like online. Not everyone else like ships here. I can't buy a Barnes and Noble Nook in Canada from the US. They won't ship it. They won't even accept my credit card, my Canadian credit card. They won't accept my Canadian address. So what do? Do a redirect service. And then it's like, well, let's just open an office in the US, ship to the US, and then ship from there to customers all over the world. It just leverages like kind of cool infrastructure that we've developed over the years in order to do this. So we aren't just a store, we just don't, we hype the store a little bit like on this because it's more casual what we're doing here. Like we sort of on our website, on our news website, we barely talk about our store at all. It's e-reader centric, ebooks, audiobooks, that type of stuff. And a store is just something that we do. It's like our Android app store, which we don't really talk about. We've been running that for like 10 years. And it's like, we have like an Android app store that's like geared only towards e-readers that are running Android. We don't, if you have a flagship smartphone, you're using Google Play. But if you're using like an Android driven e-reader, they don't really even have app stores on them. So we developed like an e-ink app store and like spent thousands and thousands of dollars to like develop it. And it was just like a service that we offer completely for free. It's like, yay, a lot of people have Android e-readers that have trouble downloading apps. At the time when we launched it, there was like, Amazon App Store didn't even exist. It was like GetJar and like, One Mobile, which actually closed, or that actually closed.
That was it.
So it was, we do like a lot of stuff. And it's
as you get bigger, you open up more avenues, you open up more branches. I mean, we started to, like Mike said, we had to hire people to go to all these other places because physically couldn't go to all these places because we were managing the news publication and the production office and all these shipping offices. And now that we have 3 offices around the world, we're bouncing back physically to all these places. You end up having to branch out and hire more people, and you have to expand. And we have a lot of avenues, we have a lot of divisions now, so it's a far cry from what we were in 08, which we will actually be touching on next week, which is our year-end wrap-up. And it's also, we've been in business for more than 10 years, but it's 10 years of really being known and active in the e-reader scope. So next week we'll be going over the amazing things we've kind of went through, the highs and lows of the e-reader industry and everything that kind of comes along with that. So that'll be for next week. So I think Mike has a couple quick bits, and then we'll talk about the contest we got going up, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, so Google has just released their first audiobooks using their TTS system. It was like basically a combination of like WaveNet based natural voices with their like TTS system, and they're primarily marketing it towards publishers, but they took a lot of like royalty free open source books and used this as like a proof of concept. So we have a front page on our blog. There's like 18 combination of fiction and nonfictions that you could just like download for free. Um, so you can now root the Amazon Kindle Paperwhite 4. This was one of the most well-read articles that we've done and the most shared in a pretty long time. So it basically like will allow you to do things like install your own screensavers, install alternative apps like a co-reader, things that will allow you to have CBR and CBZ support, being able to read EPUB on your Kindle, so you can sideload in EPUB books. There's a lot of cool stuff, although you're not actually voiding your warranty by rooting your Kindle, but there is like a procedure to like do it, and it does take like about like 40 minutes with all the different reboots and stuff that you're gonna do. Ebook sales in the US were 20% up in October. So basically, like this whole year has been like awesome for ebooks. So digital book revenues were up 20% for the month as compared to October 2009. On a year-to-date basis, ebook sales were up 16.5%. So basically like that is like huge increase from like last year. Audiobooks as well, huge like increase. But yeah, I mean, I really got bored for a long time reporting on like, for the last 4 years, it's like ebooks are down 10%, ebooks are down 8%, ebooks are down 5%. And then it's like so refreshing to actually see audiobooks like increase by like double-digit sales, like pretty well like all year long. So that is actually pretty cool. During the late stages of the pandemic, reading is like on the rise. So more people are actually reading now than they were at the beginning of like the pandemic, which is good to see. It remains to be seen if Barnes and Noble will ever sell tablets again. They removed almost all the tablets from like their bookstore. On the Nook store. They're actually selling one right now that they just added in the last week, the Nook 10.1, but all the Samsung Galaxy for Nooks, all like the Nook 7 is down.
That next week. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Not about that.
And the last thing, Goodreads, which is owned by Amazon, has disabled their API program. So Goodreads has been like running their API since 2010. Developers could make apps that leverage like Goodreads metadata, such as like book title, description, starred rating, and all that type of stuff. Basically, like they're not accepting any new API keys, and they're actually closing API keys. So basically, if they're been unused for 30 days, they're closing, and they're going to be entirely closing their API program like in the next 3 months. So that sucks. And like there's a lot of people that made a lot of apps using the Goodreads API that, and hundreds of man hours on a casual app, sometimes thousands on like an app that is a commercial app, so yeah, Goodreads is killing their API, and that sucks. So that's it for the quick bits for today.
Thank you. We have had very successful contests recently, and as you know, we are running a contest every single week for the month of December.
On our YouTube channel, right?
On our YouTube channel, correct. Right now, we have the Supernote A5 coming out in kind of, honor of the A5X coming out, and in 12 hours you already have 1,200 entries. So go over to that because it only lasts a week, not 2 weeks this time. And we tell people about this. It actually does pay off to become a paid member of us, because when you enter a contest, you get 1 entry. If you're a paid member, you get 10, and we enter your name 10 times in a list in an auto generator. And then when we click OK, your name is entered 10 times. We will ship it to you absolutely for free. Doesn't cost you anything. Our last winner was a paid member, actually. And yeah, we just gave away the Face Note. We gave away an iReader C6. We're giving away a Supernote A5. And next week, there's going to be a really good one as well. So get into it while you can. And next week on the live show, we will be talking about 10 year of Good e-Reader, where we started, where we went. We went to, like Michael mentioned, we were media, everything from going to Taiwan to Computex, all the way to being media sponsors in a magazine of Book Expo America. I think that was it.
Yeah, Us and Publishers Weekly.
Yeah, and Michael being featured on CTV and news publications and radio shows and stuff like that. Just everything we've kind of seen from being a basement operation, buying everything online, getting scammed by Chinese websites, and all the way to where we are now. So yeah, that's basically it for the day. We will, and also on this little mini live contest, we have 10 entries already. So if you want to see if you've won this, go over to Facebook and we will put in your name to see if you've won. And wow, to top it off, Queen Cats just gave us a $20 donation. So, oh my gosh, thank you so much. That's very much appreciated.
Word up.
Okay, wow. So that's it for us, I guess.
Yeah, guys, thanks for tuning in. We go live at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern every Saturday. We've been doing this show, I think, for a couple months now. And yeah, we pretty well have talking points that we talk about early in the show. And then we kind of dive into things that we really kind of want to talk about. And we pretty well entirely focus on like e-readers, the process of reading, how traditional media has been disrupted by digital, and you only have to look at all the newspapers that have been closing all over the years, advertisers advertising online instead of advertising in papers, and a lot of papers are advertising driven business. So less people subscribing to a physical paper, more people subscribing to the digital edition, or just reading Google News and getting all their info from there. Specialty sites that are focused on tech rather than waiting for your weekly tech column in your newspaper to report on it, or your favorite magazine. So would you rather get a subscription to PC Gamer or subscribe to a few gamer blogs and read stuff as they come as they're newsworthy? So yeah, we pretty well just talk about, for the most part, how traditional media has been disrupted by digital, and we focus on newspapers, magazines, books, CDs, like CD audiobooks versus digital audiobooks. There's a lot of aspects to it. So every week we talk about this sort of stuff, and you can go back and watch previous VODs for free. As you're watching the VOD, if you're doing it on your smartphone or tablet, you can actually see the live chat. You can see people subscribing to our channel, donating. So you can see all the stuff live as it's occurring. So it's a cool little feature. We also have closed caption systems, so you could actually read this and have the text appear as we're talking. So that's another system that we offer. All of our videos on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/goodereader for the past year have been shot in 4K as opposed to 1080p. So we've stepped up our production game. So if you've looked at a lot of our reviews year on year, you probably notice a bit better quality. We review literally every single new e-reader, no matter where it comes out in the world. So if we don't talk about an e-reader and we don't review it, it doesn't exist. So we want to thank everyone who's watched our show for today and has listened to us rant and rave about the e-reader industry. So my name is Michael.
My name is Peter.
Everyone take care.